Hello, welcome to MediaSFU's guide on how to get our application working in your Flutter app. And this is Prince, and I'll be guiding you through that today. So, briefly, what we'll be looking at doing today is for any given project or any application for which you will require the need to send and receive media. How are you going to be able to do that using MediaSFU effortlessly? So, we'll be doing that today with our Spaces Tech application. Um, and this is our dummy app to illustrate how to incorporate media SFU. This report is part of the three options. One is Spaces Tech Initial, which you should have seen a presentation on that. If not, we kindly recommend that you check that. So quickly, there is Spaces Tech Initial, which just illustrates basic spaces idea, and we have SpacesTekFinal, which we are going to use as our repo to show how to take an initial application for which you don't have media integration, and then do MediaSFU as your media provider, and then go from initial to final. There's another option not presented today, which is going from final to advanced and um, going beyond just audio application and doing much more advanced things. So for every repo that we have, every repo that we have on Spaces Tech, other than initial, if you take a look at the final, um, when we focus on our Flutter, which is our point of interest today, there's a guide which is exhaustive to an extent, um, guiding us on the changes we made from initial coming to final. And a very interesting point is that it's always a very detailed integration steps, which I think we made a reference to it here as public transcript. If you are to click on this or that, it takes you to what's somewhat looks like a step-by-step guide, which you could kind of combine with this video to an extent using isolation to get your results to work. So I could take a look at this. We try to be as exhaustive as possible, showing every change that is made from the initial to final. Um, so you can kindly reference use as a reference. The same way, when you take a look at the Spaces Tech Advanced repo, you're gonna also get a guide that goes from initial to it goes from final to Spaces Tech Advanced. So back in our main repo, uh, what we'll be doing briefly today will be mostly one, how to configure your application, whether you're on MediaSFU Community Edition, which is open, or you are combining MediaSFU Community Edition in combination with cloud for purposes of egress. So, for example, you want to do recording, this cloud recording, you want to do an AI agent uh, or something of that nature, which currently are not supported by your Community Edition. You want to know how to configure your Flutter SDK to work, particularly initial setup. And then the very last group will be those who are solely reliant on MediaSFU cloud. Then beyond that, we see how to use our mic, camera, and basic things we normally require in our media usage, as well as how to receive media in our application using MediaSFU. So quickly, we'll just go through these steps. Very first action will be to clone the repo. So and we're always going to start with the SpacesTek initial in this case. So you're going to go back to SpacesTek initial and then work away from cloning. You hit the clone by copy of the link. And then I'm going to just demonstrate this in VS Code. So I'm just going to go to my VS Code and then clone the repo. as guided, and then I'm gonna just work out from the MediaSFU Flutter part. So in my window, all I need to do is to do git clone, and I paste the link for initial, and then the render is within a couple of seconds. It should be cloned, and you can see it's done. So from here, if take a look at the structure, there is a bunch of other SDKs which might not be of interest to you. So you have a backend which you will need if you followed the initial setup, but then it's absolutely up to you whether you just want to use the front end dummy JSON or you want to combine the backend. I'll be using the backend. So making use of the backend, I'll be making use of MediaSFU Flutter, which is of great interest today. And everything else here, they are not of interest to me. So I'll do one thing, which is I'll reopen my folder, my project to specifically focus on a MediaSFU Flutter instance as opposed to having everything in the window currently. So I have here my focus folder on my MediaSFU Flutter. And then what I need to do is to install my backend dependencies as well as my that's for my Flutter package. So I will open a new terminal to the right of this, and then I do know my backend is one level up, so I'll go cd and I'm gonna hit the backend. And in here, I'm gonna do my npm install to install my backend. And while this might take some couple of time, since it's done now, with my Flutter, if I just go to my PAPS spec, and then probably just control S, save here, and it should auto run the pub get if missing any packages so far. So with these two done, we are good to go in terms of having our application currently set up. So I'll run my application now, and if you are using MediaSFU Community Edition, you will need to configure reports that you're gonna accept requests from in terms of your app, in terms you are working with the security details in your Community Edition. So I'm not sure of the number who will be on that, but then just make sure you are allowing every request as you are using now or whatever ports you are going to run on, because Flutter goes randomly, you are going to get from specific endpoints. I'll always be running from port 5000, which is what I set my backend to accept requests from. So when I say my backend, I mean my Community Edition backend. If you haven't seen the video on that already, you can take a look. So if I do Flutter run and I'm specify the web port as 5000, it's going to run a specific port 5000 every time instead of randomly popping up new port numbers. At least I know I'm gonna accept that at my MediaSFU Open Community Edition. So I'm gonna do with Edge. For some reason, I have issues with Chrome at times, so I'm gonna go with Flutter Edge. The same time, I'll start my backend npm start. By default, it runs on port 3001 as the port it's working on. And as usual, as demonstrated, if you check your library in the API, if you don't want to use your server, you want to use your server or not, you make that configuration from here and then indicate whatever port number it's supposed to work from. So within my local network, and then I'm on port 3001 on my backend, which you can see from here, which means I can be able to go to that endpoint safely. Okay, so I'm currently just waiting for my Flutter to start. Okay, so we can see now that our application is opened and then running on what's 5,000 RPM. Now, I'm just gonna pick one of these random profiles. Um, by default, we save some default images here, but then Flutter has issues reading specific images from our dummy. I think this is pick some also, so we just keep randomly picking pictures to show up here. You would have seen different images if you were to be on another platform other than Flutter. And you can see that from even starting up the application, what we have in here. So, um, so I should just quick demo without our Flutter MediaSFU SDK added. I will just choose the profile of Alice, for example, and in here, we'll just create a dummy space and then see that we actually don't have MediaSFU in here for now as our media provider. So I'll create a new space and I'll say let's know MediaSFU integration. Now let's do this at the description. And I hit create space. I'm gonna have my space here, which is just me, and then there's nothing else in here. Now, for us to have MediaSFU supported, media transmitted supported, we need to integrate MediaSFU's package. And to do that, just need to run our Flutter pub add MediaSFU SDK. So I'm gonna go to the terminal and do um, gonna run this in my terminal. So let me just stop this briefly. If I run my Flutter pub add MediaSFU SDK, you could have just typed that directly in your pub spec, and then it would have saving it to add it to your dependencies instead of quitting and restarting your server. So I think we are done now. So I'm going to restart my application again, and then also same. I'm going to be on uh, port 5,000. So with our application running now, we'll focus on getting the SFU to work. And we'll do that with a media SFU handler file, basically our provider of media SFU app. So I'm gonna go to my application, and then what I'll do is to create a file and components called media SFU handler. So I'll call it a create media SFU handler.dat. All what I'm going to do in here is to import and save media SFU from this folder. So briefly, if you take a look at the MediaSFU package, you make all, and you can make all important is show what you need. So this I will import the package, and I'm just going to show currently what I specifically need. There are a couple of views you could use, but I'll stick to MediaSFU generic, which kind of encapsulates all the views. So MediaSFU generic, and then it requires the options. So MediaSFU generic options. SFU generic options. And also we'll need our credentials for class. So practically we have our core things we need from our MediaSFU package. By default, if we are to return our view, we'll have the option to specify if we'll be doing that without with a credential, without a credential. I'll start off with the simple view for community edition users who don't need to use MediaSFU Cloud or together, and then we go as mentioned to those who need a combination and so that's solely. So for now, I can just get rid of the credentials, this as an illustration, and then we'll define our MediaSFU cloud. We'll define our MediaSFU class as a stateless widget. And all you're going to return is you need to wrap this in the size box that returns our MediaSFU generic. So let's get in our material, Flutter material. You can expand this a bit. Okay, so in summary, I'm just returning a set box. So I'm of specific width and height. For now, you can just change this to whatever you want to do, and then it just passes in MediaSFU generic, which requires options as MediaSFU generic options. So if we head back to our space details, which we are saving our main meeting event logic, we'll make an import of our MediaSFU handler and then just use it here. So I'm going to import MediaSFU handler and I'll put it in the UI somewhere around somewhere close to the some of the screen. So I think right above the model, somewhere here, I'm gonna put in my MediaSFU MediaSFU handler. So now if we go into our application, we are just gonna make a quick check to see if we can have MediaSFU at least rendered in the default context. So I'll create a new space and I'll name this test initial MediaSFU. Same thing as the description. And then one capacity is that's 5 and then in the space. Okay, so just a brief one. Let me just cross check this again. Okay, so I think we need the reload, the soft reload. So to make this reflect at every point, we make a change. So I'm gonna just head back to the window and then just reload this. That's how to reload this. Yes, so once you're done hot reloading this, let's check out this again. And by default, we have our MediaSFU default page. So whenever you are using MediaSFU, you have the option to use a pre-join page or a welcome page. So when MediaSFU doesn't dictate credentials and then uh, passed, it's by default going to save a welcome page. And the welcome page basically just takes credential details from you. So it assumes you probably created the event room either on MediaSFU's sandbox or MediaSFU's the dashboard, and then you have the credentials in which you can just fill in and then proceed. Mostly, this is of limited interest for people, especially if you're not using cloud altogether. But even if you're using cloud, probably for maybe debug purposes, you ever need this. But then, as a point of illustration, I'll just quickly take a quick moment to just describe what this entails. So this is practically maybe going to sandbox. I think also dashboard to get meeting details. And then the prior to I think version 2, I think version 2 thereabouts, maybe version 2, we used to have the scanner to scan the QR code, which you're gonna see that in the dashboard option. And basically just scan the QR code and proceed to the meeting. For the sake of supporting various languages, we took that out. But then, if you still want to use the scan option, there should be you backtrack to think version 1 point something. I'm not quite sure. You're gonna get the option to have the scanner and the scanner icon in here. So briefly, I'm just gonna illustrate what this would have been uh, for people interested. So if you were to go to MediaSFU Sandbox, which is primarily the equivalent of our Postman, you have a couple of sandboxes which shows what you could do with our HTTP request. I mean, making a request to MediaSFU server. By default, there isn't much communication via HTTP. Most of the stuff happen in your room via WebSocket. So for every request you need, maybe look at the event setting, recordings, AI creations, or the like. Um, you, for example, come to your your room sandbox, and if you want to know how to create a room, you, for example, to create, you make a change here, join, delete, or get, or whatever change. If you hit, if you take a keep track of it, if I hit submit, it's gonna change the output here. At the same time, Flutter, so for that, it populates the details of the request you need, which you can just run this from whatever point you want to run. At the same time, you can copy this output and then paste it here. And from here, with your API username, if you don't have one, you just create an account to MediaSFU/login. If you manage to use your GitHub or Google. Other than that, if you want to use your manual email and the like, you can just go through the sign-up endpoint. If you log in, you have an API username and API key. Now, for example, if you check your API key, so let me say there are three options. There is a demo key, there's a sandbox key, and then there is a production key. By default, MediaSFU production key doesn't work with any random domain. You need to specify the domain you want to work with and have it registered before you can use it. A demo key, you never make any request of your demo key. We just use it internally to track your demo meetings you hold. And the sandbox key is accepted from anywhere. So you ideally would have been using your sandbox key. By default, you can hit the edit button. There's an option to toggle the state, whether it's inactive or active. Want to view that, you click copy. You can recycle this countless times to keep changing the key, and then I think you will limit it after a number of retries or so about. So and just save whatever changes in it. So You can just get your details from here, go to the sandbox and make a request. And you copy it, which I'm going to demonstrate quickly. So sandbox, if I switch this request, I'm going to just make a create room request. And I'll just copy everything as it is. I want to check these details. The default MediaSFU is your default setting if you don't pass that in the request. So I just want to make it as simple as possible. So this is some dummy example of Chrome. If I copy this into and I paste this in here, and I make if you are not signed in, you would have gotten the option to sign in to run. You need to sign in to run. So if you're not signed in, you have a login to run. So if I run this, it creates a meeting for me, a room for me, which I can just this is the for a couple of details what we needed to complete that form. Your room name, your link, your secret, everything is in here. And then there's a very key to just a public URL, which you can just grab and paste in your browser. It takes you straight to the meeting room served by MediaSFU. Other than that, you can pick these individual pieces which kind of join to form this very long link, and you can paste in the welcome page. But like I mentioned, this is not the focus of this, so um, I'm not going to dwell on this. Now, for the scanning option that I was mentioning, if you were to go to create event, you hit start a new meeting. And I'm going to just put a name of zero answer. Basically, I need at least a name. If I do confirm, you're going to see an option to scan and enter the meeting. But like I mentioned, this is of super limited usage to most people. So I'm just going to ignore that and then go back to the meeting. Let me proceed with using a page, which is a pre-join page that by default picks credentials programmatically and then creates your room. So let's head back to our application, and this time around, we are going to use the pre-join page, which by default, you can pass your own pre-join page uh, in MediaSFU handler. You can pass your own widget that is shown there, or you can use the default widget if you don't pass in anything. And the very key thing required for Flutter's pre-join page to work is that at least we pass in the credentials. It doesn't need to be a real credential. So if even you're not using the cloud, and you would like to get it to work, you at least need to pass a credential. So we're just going to create a dummy credential, particularly what meets the requirements for MediaSFU, as in at least 8 characters long alphanumeric values for the username, and then the API key at least must be 64 values. So you can just make use of some of the dummy ones, I think, in the SDK. There should be one guide as well as for the quick startup, or just refer to the one in here. So we are going to just create a dummy credential, and for a dummy credential, we will need the credentials, which I imported it last time. So credentials object, and um, we're going to just paste credentials as this to move this object and put this here. So credentials, and I will connect my application to my local instance. And to do that, there's a requirement for what we call a local link. Basically, where is your application running by default? And mine is running on port 3005, which I'll demonstrate to you briefly that it's running there. But quickly, I'm going to just pass in the credentials to the MediaSFU's generic MediaSFU options. So we go in here and you're gonna pass in our need for credentials. It's going to be our credential. I will provide the local link, but then quickly let me just at least render the UI with the project page, and then I'll come back to indicate my local instance. So I'm gonna just reload this again. In my application, let me just test pre-join page. So I want to create new one. So we'll create new page and it will be test pre-join page. I'm gonna go to description as the description. So we can hit with space. You realize that we come to a page where there's a create to join. So switch to create or create switch to join. So effectively, this is the render of pre-join pages by providing credentials. Now, I will by default it communicates to me as if you cloud if you haven't indicated anything in your handler option. So if I don't indicate anything in MediaSFU handler, there is going to be communication with MediaSFU cloud. Now, I'm running my local server on port 3005. To demonstrate that to you, I'm just gonna go to that link. So um, localhost port meeting start. Um, you're gonna realize I can have an endpoint to start a meeting as, as demonstration. So I will just close this for now. And then um, back in my application, I will indicate where my local application is running just by providing a local link. So SAP handler, here I'm gonna have what I call a local link, and it's just going to go to HTTP for 3005. Now, once you indicate this, by default, MediaSFU has this thing called connect MediaSFU to be true, which means I'm connected to MediaSFU, and that means you had maybe no local server. So to indicate that you are not at least connecting to MediaSFU, in addition to your local instance, you need to pass the connect MediaSFU to be false. By default, it defaults to true, so you don't need it if you are genuinely connecting only to MediaSFU without the local link. So this needs to be false if I need to just stay on my local instance. So I save this, I'll have to reload application again. Okay, so with my application reloaded, I'm gonna go back in here, and then I'll just return new space again, and I'll say test 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 community edition. So community hello. Also copy this and have it as my description, and then I'm gonna just use them this to define. Then when I go in there, I can create a room from here now. So when I hit root room, I'm gonna use the name, for example, as the name, the duration as 5. For the view type, because I'm using a generic from MediaSFU handler, I can render any view type. If you're using a specific view, make sure at least you are mentioning it here. You can be using MediaSFU's broadcast view in the handler, and then be using webinar here. You're not gonna get parts of the UI rendered. The generic kind of renders everything. You probably have to deal with odd and ugly transition when you're starting initially, and whenever you go to the meeting from scratch, but then it captures every part of the UI. So capacity, I'm gonna do with 3. So if I hit create room, you're gonna get these issues with overflow and the like, but then this is not there. primary interest for us in terms of forcing MediaSFU's UI into an existing UI. By default, MediaSFU's UI is based on its own full window. So I'm just probably gonna change some size somewhere to make this go. But then primarily what you have is you have MediaSFU's interface displayed. Now just join this meeting. I can have, you probably want to do with reduce space so that at least you have uh, the the menu to show. And just see whether I can change this size. It's smaller. Okay, briefly, let me just change the size and then see whether I can have at least having the menu show from here. So let me just grab the MediaSFU handler, and then I'll change the way the width of it. Then I'm just trying to see whether I can grab the menu bar. So also this force screen size to work to see that. So okay, let me just get rid of this. Let's leave it as it is. Then back in my window, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change the view style, and then in summary, I can have my menu pop up, which I need to get access to. So if I do this, um, the very quick indication that on my local instance is the meeting starting with M. So if you're in MediaSFU, your community edition always starts with M if it's run solely. If you're MediaSFU Cloud, it's either S for sandbox rooms, P for production rooms, and then there's D for demo rooms, but then you never get to have it in the SDK because it just gets created when you go through our content. So primarily, you're either on M, S, or D. If you're combining MediaSFU with community edition with MediaSFU Cloud, and you want to make a quick guess if it's actually working, to be sure it's working, it must start with at least SOP, depending on where you are, which endpoint or type production or sandbox. If you are combining cloud and then your local instance and it's always M, it means it's never created on MediaSFU's endpoint. So in isolation, community edition is always M. In combination with uh, in combination with cloud, it's either SOP, and then if it's just cloud alone, it's also still SOP. So I'm gonna create that meeting again, and then time. So I'm gonna make maybe 10 minutes, and then also webinar view, and then I'm gonna use right. Okay, so from here, I want to just check this is working, right? So I'm gonna join the meeting. I just copy the link. And when I go to start, I can paste this meeting here, and then I hit confirm. This is the ID is valid, so I can just proceed to type my then I want to use. So the test name, and then when I hit join, I should be able to join the event. Now, a rating that happens should happen as usual. So if I'm to start my camera here, if I allow my camera here, I should be able to see myself on the other side of the application. Every logic with participants view, remote control and everything should work accordingly as expected. Uh, but then this is for solely when we are working locally. We switch next to the other use cases as in those who are combining MediaSFU Community Edition with their local instance, which is basically we need to then connect MediaSFU to and then proceed from there. So I'll just end this now. I'll end this event from here, and it should be ended here. I'll just leave this tab on. So and then when we go back to our handler, now we can pass this as true. That's all we need to make sure we are connecting in addition to our local instance. But then you notice I'm still using the dummy credentials. And that's because by default, if you're using MediaSFU Open, which is open, it's still Community Edition, MediaSFU Community Edition, and then you are combining it um, with your the cloud. For security reasons, we've configured it in a way that you can just pass dummy credentials, and then we are going to be able to communicate with MediaSFU Open, unless, of course, you made changes to the application. By default, whenever you send a request to create a room and you're using it in combination with your community edition, we send a request back to your local instance, and then it's updated to change the dummy credentials to your exact credentials that you have configured in your .env. So if that's not the case, which that might have been modified by you, then that's a special issue. But other than that, you can always pass a dummy credential in the UI here for those using local link in addition to the application cloud. And then MediaSFU, so far as it meets the minimum size 8 and then character size length 64, MediaSFU is going to make a request to the local link, which is your local server for community edition, and then by default it will change that. It will intercept the request, modify the credential, and then forward it to MediaSFU with the right one. So just make sure you change your .env variables in your community edition to be the actual one. So from here, I'll just pass this as true, and then nothing else. I'll just reload this. Okay, so I'm gonna head back to application. Then over here, I will start with space, and I'm saying test local and cloud. Local and cloud description. So from here, I can just do create space. I'll still be made to the interface to create a room. But this time around, it will be a combination of two. So we expect a different name as opposed to starting with M. So I'm going to use this, maybe a much longer duration now. And then, so we're going to view, and then I'm going to give it capacity. So when I hit create room, a very quick check. Just going to go to that. A very quick check to make sure we are actually on both is we hit this and we see that the meeting ID actually starts with the letter S. So that's a guarantee that we are actually dealing with MediaSFU cloud in combination with local edition. So let's just confirm these checks by I'm gonna place this meeting here and confirm. Yeah, say this is a valid meeting. I'm still gonna join as test name. Yeah, I join this meeting. You should see that person here. I'm gonna go to MediaSFU's cloud as well. So that's going to be MediaSFU.com to make sure that's also okay. MediaSFU.com or as the meeting /start. Yeah, I'm also gonna just paste this link and hit confirm. Right, so far as it's valid, it comes up with this username. If it's not a valid link, it's not gonna come up as test name 22. This is test name 2, and then if I hit join, I'm gonna have the option to proceed and join the meeting as usual. And by default, the configuration to combine cloud and the local instance is that we do a one-way traffic. You don't get a point to consume media if you're combining local link and then your cloud. By default, we're assuming everything that's supposed to happen in your meeting, the sending and receiving media is happening locally. The very special cases which you don't have support currently for local is recording and then AI agents and the like, just data buffering. And we only provide the endpoint at MediaSFU that to send and one-way traffic. So if I'm to join this meeting now on MediaSFU.com, as it is with your combination of local link, it's just going to be for me to send media to MediaSFU. I'm not going to be able to see anybody, receive anybody from this endpoint. You have to join that from your local server, which is from this point before you can see whoever is in your local server, as well as send to your local server and then send to MediaSFU. So that's practically just described. And then here too, if I start my media as a demo, I should have that reflected here as well. Anything you also do from the point of this user, you should have that reflecting. And for some reason, the UI is showing this on top instead of side by side. So just drag this a bit. By default, because of the first display, this is showing two stacked videos instead of okay. So I think this works, and we shouldn't have that issue for the actual out of first SpacesTek integration. And yeah, controls, everything should work as usual. So I'm gonna end this now, and then we go to the very last case of people who are using specifically MediaSFU cloud only with no community additional local link to combine. So I'm just gonna end this meeting now, and I'll just I'll leave this on for a bit. So in our application, if you are not using MediaSFU, if you're not using a local link, what we need to do is to get rid of local link. It's by default MediaSFU, only MediaSFU of true. Uh, you can get rid of it by default to true. Now, the very key thing here is now you don't have access. You don't have access to something that replaces your dummy to your actual. So in this case, let's treat it as a two-case scenario. For one dummy and then one uh, uh, one development context in which you are actually developing, you can just type in your API key is in here, or in a special case of you're actually in production, which you can just make this visible. So the very first case I'm just gonna run with API keys this left screen, and then the next case will be MediaSFU special option for you to provide a custom function. So the custom function is going to do the job of um, sending a request to whichever, it basically calls your function. And then when it calls your function, there should be a payload, which is meant for MediaSFU.com by default, just like the way the MediaSFU community edition was doing. You can just intercept it, just update the actual credentials to what it's supposed to be, and then forward it to MediaSFU.com. So now I'm going to make a run of actual communication with MediaSFU.com. And then we also go to the special case of when you have to provide a custom function and then a dummy credential so that the custom function maybe calls your whatever specific backend or secure end to do that. So briefly, we get loose we get rid of our local link. I'll modify my credential supply. So it's off screen, but then just do know that once I'm at this stage, I'm using the correct credentials. So I've updated my credentials to what's supposed to be. Now I'm gonna hit reload once more to reload my application. Then this time around, it's going to be just a MediaSFU cloud application. So let's just confirm that. And this time around, I'm gonna test the integration. And it's solely going to be test this cloud only. And cut test cloud only description. So if I hit create space, if I create a room, I'm gonna use on this and on 5, maybe now 3, and I hit create room. You're the first going to see that just reduce this so it comes to portrait mode to get the menu. So we have is so when you have the link from here, we are going to see that when we try and check in from in our local instance, uh, it says this meeting does not exist because this is technically just running um, on our MediaSFU cloud. Now you can check that here. I paste this and then I run this. You're gonna see that it works. And if I use maybe some domain name, join the room, and I'll challenge join this time around on the web. If I make some media option that here, I should have that also running on the web. So technically, this completes just the development case of integration. Now we are going to check out the case in which you're actually using a specific function to do your dummy credential transition to an actual one. So I'm just doing this from here. So in here, if we are to go back to the option to use dummy and then use a custom function to create, the very first thing we need to know is that if you are to take a look at MediaSFU's option to create or join room, and I'm gonna just quickly grab this link. Like what happens here, the brief implementation is there is a check of by default the payload is meant for MediaSFU.com. If you do have a local link, which whenever we find that we change that and send a request to your local link. So ideally a similar function to create room on MediaSFU.com will be something that just takes a payload and then sends it to your sorry, it'll be something that calls MediaSFU.com with whatever payload that is sent, and then just returns the result as implemented. So basically in our MediaSFU handler, just somewhere here, posts. Um, as a sample command with everything coming from MediaSFU SDK. You can just comment out this so that I show everything. Um, and I'm gonna require to import that HTTP and then that's convert just briefly. Um, I'm gonna get that convert. So I could show the individual things I need here, but for quick illustration, as I'm gonna get rid of this, sum is to have the everything showing from our MediaSFU SDK. So primarily your custom function could look like this, which basically it should be calling these endpoints um whatever it's supposed to be, but then ideally should go to MediaSFU.com like I mentioned, and then return our actual payload. Now, just for illustration, in terms of what's happening, if for MediaSFU's backend end, so just a brief guide, as a potential backend, MediaSFU intercepts the request and then checks the authorization. And this is loose that implementation of what the server does for JS. So it checks a primary authorization header we have in it to make sure at least we are the original generators of this request. And then the very key part is that the API username and API key, we make sure it's true. Just verify that we have temporary storage, I think about 15 minutes or so for each generated key. And from there, we replace the dummy details, which is meant to for MediaSFU with whatever we have, whatever is actually supposed to be. Your system, whatever your MediaSFU is actual API is and it's supposed to be, then you send a new request with this new detail. So basically sending the same request, but then changing the credentials to match whatever it's supposed to be. Now, I'm gonna get rid of all of this, and then I'll create a dummy function, which basically I'm just going to intercept the request and then print it out, debug print it so that you at least see that we can have the request intercepted before it goes to MediaSFU.com. So I'm not going to change anything much. Just send the request with my real credentials, which I'm going to configure offline. But then I'm going to do this, which is almost same logic as MediaSFU's create function, just that I'm not verifying credentials before this. Then it's going to MediaSFU.com by default, but I'll just make a printout of the request that was made, and then do the rest of the request, and then return it to the SDK for completion. So in doing this, obviously, I'm not changing the API key API username. So I'm gonna edit this outline to be my actual API details. But just so you understand, I'm gonna use the same credential. I'm gonna just my actual credential. I'm just going to post this, print this so that you know at least it comes through here, function, and make it to X. So now once you have this, you are gonna pass the create function. That's very key. So your custom function to create create MediaSFU room will be our function we have in here. There is a create. It's English room on MediaSFU. So about conflict with existing functions in media. So it's true on MediaSFU. But you're gonna have, if you need one for join, you're gonna have also the join MediaSFU room, and it's going to be whatever function you desire. It could be the same function you run for both, because ideally just same payload you take and forward, just change credentials. So it's gonna be the same endpoint. And with this specified, we are certain it's gonna come through here. So let me just go off screen. I'm going to change my credential and then reload this for us to demonstrate that. all we are going to see is a printout of the payload in our browser. Now with our details updated, I will just reload our application, and then once it's reloading, let me switch to the browser. I'm going to close this. And SpacesTek, I'll just create a new space. And this time around, I'm going to look at, say, test custom intercept. The interception intercept. So then this is going to be the description. So it's create room. Let me just create a room. And let me just use some name of something new altogether. I'll just use a new one. And I'm going to make a duration really different from the rest of 15. One type of webinar, and then capacity something different 6. So if I hit create room, now let me just switch to the console user. In the console log, go to somewhere up here. Okay, so yeah, this is before we have them. So somewhere here, if we take a look at, just zoom in a bit, control plus. You're gonna have the details that we pass. We use the 6, new one, uh, duration 15, and you realize it's printed and in our terminal. Just a confirmation that it's actually was caught by our function or custom function before it's continuing to complete. So from here, I can just also confirm briefly if I copy this. Once, so it's not going to work locally, but then if I go here and then I'm going to use this name, and if I go to join, I join this meeting, and then everything should work accordingly. So this as usual, everything should be as expected. So in Borit, we have demonstrated how to get to work with community edition only, then community edition with cloud, and cloud only. Now we are going to proceed with the next part, which is technically rendering MediaSFU without, you don't want this UI embedded locally in the system as it is. And maybe you don't really care about this UI's appearance. You have your own custom SpacesTek view. You just want to get media or send media with the whole of this MediaSFU UI. So that case is going to be a situation with return UI false option and the MediaSFU handler. Now, whenever you're using return UI false in MediaSFU handler, we are required to pass what we call source parameters, and then source parameters update function. And basically, MediaSFU provides us that as a way to have a synchronized state with what you would have been experiencing in this UI when we go off it, when you're not displaying it. So we proceed to the next step where we get rid of the whole UI altogether, and then we work with basically the what's driving this UI. And then I will do this going forward solely based on my local edition. So I'm just gonna get rid of everything with the SFU handler, just bring the basic initial step of communicating with my local link. So going forward, it's just going to be that it shouldn't be an issue with somebody sticking solely to me SFU cloud, as you've seen so far. Okay. Now back in our MediaSFU handler with the default implementation of a local link solely. Um, we want to refer to only no UI instance and don't give us any display. So to do that, we need a written UI of false. And MediaSFU is not going to return anything. The very second part is since we are returning no UI, it means we are not going to be able to see a pre-gen page or any kind of page. So we need to find a way to send dynamically send whatever we need to. Basically, what we would have gathered with our pre-gen page, we need a way to provide that to our function. So, and mostly it's either one of two things. It's either we are joining a room or creating the room. So, uh, MediaSFU requires a join or create depending on whichever scenario you're dealing with, and you can um you can create and pass that as needed. So, and it needs to be one of each at a time. It's either you're creating or joining. You can have the both functions. So you need to dynamic and handle. Now to illustrate that, I'll create a basically dynamic functions. I'm gonna call no UI options, and essentially, um, I'll pass this to the 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 MediaSFU generic so that it's sent to the pre-gen page and then it's quickly does the request of creating a joining a room for us. So in the case of creating a room, we need some basic, simple details. So at least what you need to create a room, you need a create media SFU room options, and you need to pass in at least an action with create a duration, capacity, and these are the basic details you need to provide. There are extra details like meeting room recording params, safe room data buffer, and the like, which doesn't really imply in our situation here. Some of these are automatically picked up by yeah, then with cloud. There's if you cloud if some of it doesn't work with your community edition, so you don't really have to worry about that. But some of this gets picked up by cloud automatically, even you don't provide them. So something like meeting room and recording room, recording parameters and meeting room parameters. So back in here, this is the absolute minimum you need to create a room. Now, if you have to be joining, it's always three options. What's there was the meeting I'm joining, what's the person joining, and then the action, which is basically join. So this classic uh, joining meeting details. What's the name of the person, the ID, and then the action. Every class is provided outright by the MediaSFU SDK. If I want to be showing individual, I would have had to include one by one. So um, I'm gonna get rid of the join details for now. And uh, in summary, once we have this, we have to pass it to the media SAP generic option so that it's gonna make use of that. And it's in one of two details, whether it's create or join. We are gonna have what we call media SAP create options or join options. So this is going to be this. And then if it is join, you're gonna have this. And you need to, if it's something dynamic, or as in using the same thing to create or join, you need to determine when you are creating or joining, and then as in if the payload contains create, then make one undefined or now, and then just make one valid. So we'll get to that in a bit, but then for now, I'm just gonna get rid of the join thing. And once I've configured my application to have this provided, automatically when I go onto the page, it will create a room. Uh, it will be hard for you to perceive when the room is created, but then just as a check, we just let's go to just reload our application and then whilst it's reloading, open the browser. So if I go to create a new space and I go to test no UI mode, I'm gonna make this as the same thing as the description. If I run this, you don't see a UI mode, but I can confirm to you that an actual meeting is created. Probably check there. Also, if yeah, so you're gonna have something like this is something that comes off MediaSFU successfully connected to local IPs. And so that is listening. So yeah, the meeting is created outright for you, although you are not in the UI. Now, once we have this, we need a way, like I mentioned, we need a way to make use of MediaSFU's states, things we are not seeing visually. So to do this, we are going to go back to space details and provide two key parameters, which is source parameters and then update source parameters. And then we are going to find a way to pass that to MediaSFU handler. Then it in turn passes that to MediaSFU generic options. So let's to space details. Let's find a way to put uh, MediaSFU parameters and define it as source parameters. And MediaSFU source parameters, I'm going to name it MediaSFU params. So somewhere somewhere in here, I'm going to put um, I'm going to put a parameter identifier by name MediaSFU params, which is going to be our source parameter. It's as you know MediaSFU. And this class it comes from MediaSFU um, MediaSFU package. So we need to get to import um, we have to import the package. So, but briefly, I also need the update parameter. It basically, you need to keep it as simple as possible. Something just changes the value of our MediaSFU parameters with whatever comes from MediaSFU. So MediaSFU takes that and then changes key parts in real time. And we basically syncs it with what's the state of MediaSFU internal. So um, I'm gonna put these updates MediaSFU params, and then this is essentially going to transform our basically pass the params and then update it to whatever it is to be. So up here, is complete the import of my MediaSFU package, and then what should the MediaSFU params. So with this tool, we have a way of getting real-time sync of our system with what MediaSFU has. Now, we don't need this to be, we don't need this to be too exhaustive or something too complicated. It needs to be as simple as it is now. What you probably do is have another listener which you attach to this so that whenever there's a change, you probably call that as opposed to running some complicated logic um, from this space. So I would just define a parameter which I'm gonna call like as MediaSFU change or MediaSFU change. So in here, I have a identifier of MediaSFU change. Then technically, when MediaSFU change or doesn't change, I just change the value in this. So whenever there's a change in MediaSFU, I just call this to be the previous true or false. And in doing so, I can now add create a listener and then add it to my application so that I'm reacting to the change in MediaSFU as opposed to some complicated logic in here which would need to end up might cause an unnecessary or frequent changes. So um, somewhere in here, I'm gonna put in um, my listener for that. So let's have our yes, somewhere in the fresh. I'm gonna put specific. I'm gonna put a listener for immediate change, and I'll call an update state parameters function. I am basically changing some specific state values in my system. So I'll for instance, let us create a message. I'll log a message now, and we just go to somewhere here. So my update space, uh, my update space parameters function, which is reliant on MediaSFU change. I'll just make a check. So by default, once we start with undefined or empty params, a sure check that we actually connected with and created a successful meeting MediaSFU is one. We have an empty MediaSFU name, and the name is also not now. And also, we don't have an empty or undefined parameter. So if any of this is true, that we actually don't have or make it successfully created. Sometimes it happens that we are passing on potential, so set something off from then we don't get it. So probably you can just pull up, print the back print here if you are developing to be sure. So other than that, it means we've actually established connection, and then we do back print the room name from perhaps the media SFU parameters. And now we have set up this tool, which is source parameters and an update of source parameters. We are going to have to go back to our MediaSFU handler and find a way to pass this to our MediaSFU handler. So just save this and then go to MediaSFU handler. So in MediaSFU handler, we are going to take all the parameters to conditionally create the create a general as opposed to having these fixed parameters in. So this is going to take our source parameters and then our source parameters, and it's going to take our update source parameters, and then it's going to check or whether we have an action which is of creator, we have an action which is of creator join, and we are going to use that to to, to programmatically get that detail. So in here, I'm going to define when I define a class by naming the SFU options, which is essentially all we need to know. And by default, we have a couple of things that are optional because when we are creating the room, you don't need a meeting ID. It's optional, but then when we are joining, we absolutely do need that. Then we don't need the duration and basically all the presented checks for creating a joining a room. We are making sure we are honoring that. So now let's just make this reliant on options. I'm just going to rely on options from there, and we'll be requiring uh, that options. Okay, so now that we have these two, we'll update our logic here to be dependent on that. So I'm gonna write a function that checks this the component. So that's all creates a join and then does the creating agent. So so basically, I'm gonna make a check if it's a option to create. I'm gonna create my options based on create, and essentially all the basic things I need to create a meeting have it in there. If it's an option to join, essentially I absolutely need a meeting ID, else I'm gonna throw an error. Other than that, I just need only three things, always for creating a join, and I have that in there. Other than that, I just have an error which is returned when there's such an error. Okay, so Now we have our options to, we have a kind of sort of a dynamic option to create a join. But now still, like I mentioned, we need to further update this to be dependent on whether we are creating or join and still pass our source parameters and update source parameters to our system. So now if we are creating, we we want to pass the no options create as options. If we are creating, we don't need no options, no pre-join options join. So um just initially if options dot action is create, we use the no UI options, else it's now. You don't define anything else. It's one is going to take over the other. If it is join, we are going to use the new no UI options as it exists, else it's going to be now. Now we're going to have our source parameters as MediaSFU required, and then we're going to have our update source parameters. So uh, by by doing this, we have an option to join or create whenever we need to join or create, and then we can have real-time state changes in our application. So I'm going to save this, and then um, we can go back to application. Maybe for a safety check, the size box, if you're not having any thing, I'm going to split and this is size box. There's no UI options is now. So we go back to space details, and now for our new changes, we are going to uh, pass these details to our uh, our MediaSFU handler. So we go back to space details, and then somewhere in space details, I'll create parameters which are for showroom details. And essentially, it's like what data am I passing to the MediaSFU handler when we actually show them. So um, this is I'm going to save this, and then I'm calling this as showroom details. And showroom details by default, it's now. Whenever we are actually in the state of showing a room, we have to make the effort of actually updating this to um, some some reasonable some reasonable value before we actually do use show a room. So let's look at by default. Initially, let's just make this some damning thing at init state. So um, let's look for init state, and then I'm gonna just have gonna have this populated randomly, something initially. So so now by default, we have a create duration and capacity 5, and then we have a name of new name, just as a dummy name you're gonna use briefly. Then our MediaSFU handler, we're gonna have to pass it. So our MediaSFU handler um, should be somewhere here. It needs an options, and then it's going to be our showroom details value. Okay, so once you've configured this, you find a way to join a creator meeting and have that at least a message show that it's updated. So let's reload this. Let's reload our application. And about this reloading, I'll open the browser. So now they're gonna test our code is test no U test no UI and params description. So when I do this, I see the one is created and I have the show. Now I will join the show. And then just to be sure, I'm sure it's colleague to show you what doing. So this, yeah, this one, you can see it's a valid space. Now here I can see everybody, the community to the resource. What's going on? But then by default, we can see what's happening in the room. Then I think we can understand this receive media. So we proceed to finalize the integration by default. If we were to have the connected script as to hold in the this is the initial demonstration. We are going to have you have to have that. You're going to have the other buttons coming in our UI. For the fact that we don't have that, we just go and then update those space for the parameters to change ways to tree and then make the region um, work as it goes. So let's go back to our space details. Instead of feedback points, which we are doing for our indicator of project, we're gonna I don't know rather do the base and then I will have I'll have a yes, an update of the its connected state so that I have the media buttons populated on the screen. So instead of this, I'm going to have I'm going to set the state of what's connected to true for the buttons to show. So now once you have the buttons to show, we have to have the ways of actually sending media. So when I click camera, I click mic, how is that going to work? So we're going to use the MediaSFU's provided methods in, in our function. And by default, something like opening your camera, it's click video, it requires click video options, click click audio options, click screen share, click screen share. Particularly for the typical media sending and then reception options that we normally use. So let's add by default, we don't really have when you do let me see toggle mic. When you do toggle mic, no person that's doing nothing and there's some blank. So let's import this method from MediaSFU SDK and then this just comment briefly this NPM. We eventually move it to another. So click audio or so click audio options, that's the options, and then we're gonna click audio, the actual function that calls this, that class, say click audio. And well, because it's much more easier to perceive visual feed, I would rather use or have click video as well, so that you can easily perceive, unless you are here, you can't hear what I'm saying to what I'm hearing. So click video and then click video options. So I'm gonna get rid of this. So click video options, click on the So in my handle, in my toggling of the mic, instead of click audio, which I expect, I'm gonna just run click video briefly so that you can perceive the camera being turned on. So in here, by default, you you can create a final option. So you can go to I'm gonna use click video options rather. Click video options. Then Just get rid of everything. There's essentially just one thing required, which is the parameters. And passing, this will passing source. That's it. Or local parameter, which is media SFU params value. So I'm just making sure it's not empty. So I'm gonna pass in this and change it now. And same for audio, it's gonna be click audio. It's gonna be click audio options. And it requires also parameters like that. Same for every all the typical media screen share, audio and video. So click the video options, and then here we're gonna just call our function again, and just pass pass our click our click our click video our options into our click video. So this is supposed to be uh, click video and then click audio. Just keep notice the functions are lowercase and then the options are uppercase. Okay, so if I do this, if I reload this, uh, should have whatever this reloading. I'm gonna switch to the browser, and then the browser. Now let's test media usage. So we're gonna click and create a new space. I'm gonna be saying test media usage, and it's going to be the description. Then if I create space, um, now by default, this it's shown that it's connected, and we have like the option to turn off mic, which is essentially our turn off our video controls now. So let me just join the meeting room again on the other side, so that we can see there's a transmission. So this was exited. So let me just see this from there. So I'm gonna enter the test name and then join. Okay, so in this space now, I'm gonna turn turn on my mic. By default, I think it keeps the muted state as false. So it shouldn't not turn off mic. So it's supposed to be turned on mic. So in space details, the default is indicated as you are not muted, which is not so. So actually go to turn on my media now. And in my bench room, I should see my media turned on. Now, if I go back to also turn it off, in here, I it should go. So essentially, whatever I'm doing here should reflect on the other side. Like I mentioned, the state indicator, whatever it's supposed to be turn on here, it's currently being shown as displayed of false. So um, practically, we've demonstrated how to um, turn off or turn your media on this side. So now what happens if I actually also turn on my media at the other side? By default, you're not going to see anything happen because you're not receiving or you don't have a way to receive any media from other provider. So now let's work out getting this to be fixed. But at the same time, I'm going to fix the turn off the mic indicator thing. By default, it's supposed to be turn on view. So by default, just fix this. This is supposed to be it's muted by default. It's supposed to be false to be true. Um, so it's muted is supposed to be true, which means you're muted. That's what is making the turn off showing turn off mic by default. It's supposed to be turn on mic. And then they may listen to changes to make it turn off or turn on later. Okay, so this fixes that. Then let's take a look at how we are going to receive media in our system. Now, to do this, I'll briefly illustrate how MediaSFU renders its UI. So basically, how do you currently see MediaSFU? So I'm gonna head to the browser and then go to GitHub. And for just a quick guide, MediaSFU's view, normally you have what we call a main grid view, basically a very big screen. And then you see this in play when you are on a webinar view. So webinar display has almost always the host's view on the main screen. And everybody else is on the what you call the mini grid. So this is a mini grid, for instance. And in instances where the host is not on the main grid, the host becomes part of the rest of the mini grid. And this only happens in two cases: when there is a whiteboard being shared, or when there is a screen share ongoing. Then you have the host moved to everybody by the side of the screen. So it's either you're on a main grid, which is only for the case of the host at times, and or you're on the mini grid. It's one of these two grids. If you're on a broadcast screen, broadcast is just a host producing media. So there's always only just a main grid, always. So you have this, and then MediaSFU's broadcast view doesn't support whiteboard and the screen share. As in, just like you going live or something. So it's just this screen all the time. You don't have like a mini grid and the like. Now, if you are on a conference view, almost always everybody has equal relevance. So you have the host and everybody else in the same grid, the mini grid. Now, in cases when there's a screen share or there's a whiteboard share, then there's a pop-up of the big screen in addition to this, so that you have that shared. Once it goes off, you get back to the mini grids. And then the chat view is also a limited option of the conference view. So essentially just two people chatting. So you have screen share and a couple of buttons, but then just it's two of you always in the screen for private conversation. And then the other option is the um, broadcast conference with a webinar view, which I already touched on. A combination of both. Conference is this, which periodic insertion of the um, main screen. And then broadcast is just this solely. Yeah. So practically, this is how media is efficient. Now, in terms of UI, in terms of UI display, if you take a quick look at how this is, say, for example, arrange your MediaSFU screen. Take a look at this, for example. This is representative of a broadcast screen. Almost every UI item is a bunch of modals and then and buttons. For the core uh, display items, there's a bunch of modals, participant modal, and then recording modal, all those modals that pop up. If you get rid of that and you come to the essential view, for a broadcast screen as described, there's a main grid component which kind of programs and then sizes the display. The main grid component is what's the primary thing in the broadcast view. And in here, you have the floating touch screen buttons on the screen, one for recording and one for the media controls. And then there is one for when you have expanded recording controls. Then another key part of interest for us is the audio grid. So this is what plays every audio in the meeting room, other than your own audio, which obviously you don't want to hear the playback. So this this plays all your audio on your in your system. Now for the flexible grid, there could be a stack of two, depending on if there's so media tries to optimize the view. So, for example, if you have a prime number of components to be displayed as prime number, like 5 and above, uh, you're gonna have something that looks like briefly something that looks like like this. So essentially, if it's 5, we're gonna put first 2 in one row, and then the last 3 is gonna be in the second row. So if it's like 7, it's gonna be like a 2 by 2, then the last 3 on the last row. So if it's like, just look at the prime number is greater than 5 and above. So you have, so 11 is going to be a 3 by 3 grid, a 3 by 3 view, and then you're going to put the last 2 on the last row, so that you have like 11 items. So to optimize the view. So you can have a stack of one flexible grid against another flexible grid. This is a media grid when they are printed by flexible grids, and then if it is just perfect, so even a number or not a prime number greater than that is just going to be one grid, one flexible grid being rendered. So that practically summarizes how it is. So when we go back to our application, we're trying to let's just loosely render the same thing as MediaSFU is rendering for now. By default, I'll just grab the MediaSFU code and then paste in our UI, and then see how that plays out with what it's displayed in MediaSFU. So briefly, in my MediaSFU handler, right above it, I'm gonna put two things. One is audio grid. So this is supposed to be, so Control S, Control S. So I'm gonna put an audio grid, and then it is a flexible grid. Like I mentioned, this is how MediaSFU displays your data. So it means if I have MediaSFU params and I do dots, audio, whatever it is, a value, I should be displaying what it's being displayed in MediaSFU. Same for everything in here. But then you don't want to be basing the size and then your width and height on MediaSFU's original computations. It's based on the full display, which you are not going to be able to account for your insertion in your media. So for now, I'll just put in some random values in there. And then, like I mentioned, other grid streams is it's a list of lists. So it's like 2 stacks. The other part, the second part, is almost always empty unless you are dealing with a prime number um, greater than 5 and above. Other than that, it's just going to be just the first main grid. So that's why I'm just keeping the very first flexible grid. I could have had a stack of 2 flexible grids in here, but then, like I mentioned, it's just a simple illustration. I'm not going to have a lot of media to display that. Okay, so now instead of directly getting this, we'll create a local reference. What I mean a local reference is how what's the name? Our own local state, and whenever MediaSFU params changes, we are going to update that as our audio grid, and then this is video grid. We are going to update that accordingly. So let me just make this out video grid. So in here, some things that we are going to rely on, I'm going to call one as all room audios and all room of reviews, which are going to be just the same state as same values as on audio only streams, and then other good streams from MediaSFU. So let's look at our MediaSFU params. So I'm gonna put 2 listeners. One I'm gonna call all room audios and one all room audios, and this is just a list of widgets, and then one being a list of widgets. So like I mentioned, all room videos is just one array or one list, and then the all room videos is potentially two lists depending on the situation. So these two are now our local references to MediaSFU parameters. Now we're gonna go to when we have the changes, our updates. I'm gonna look for update state parameters, and then um, so in here we check for when there's a change. So I'll just combine check the three lists of the SFU, and then so I'm comparing the SFU states, the audio stream that we saw, audio and streams, and again my own audios. If it's not the same, I'm gonna assign the current to the MediaSFU params. I'm gonna do the same thing too for the video. So technically we have a replica of what's happening now. Let's go to a render and use this two rather as opposed to this. So this is effectively going to be our all room audios of value. And then make sure it's just that every time. So on flexible video, I'm not going to use any specific custom width for custom height. I'll just stick to using basically. Sorry, I'm not going to use anything from WinSF's width size. So I'm going to get rid of all this and just make it something default. But then this essentially becomes uh, our dependency on all room videos, at least if the very first part, the very first part of the list, zero part of it is defined. So in here, let's fix that. And instead of components to render, I'm gonna make this dependent on the non-empty all room videos, and I specifically save the one from the very first part of the list. I'm surely you're never gonna hit the second part. So um so basically if it's non-empty all room videos and then the very first part is not empty, we save that as we save an empty list. Now for the columns as well, I mean how long of a column or rows we have, we're not going to stick to the grid values or grid rows or values from MediaSFU. I'm just going to blindly save just a one by. I'm not going to go by a one by X or yeah, one by X or one by Y rows or columns. So for this, I'm going to change the number of columns to just be a factor of how many items I have in the very first part of the all room video. So we'll just create the length for it. And then for grid rows, it's just going to be one row. I'm never going to display more than I think 3 or 4 videos, which will also split into other screen. Now, this show aspect by MediaSFU, it's just a check by MediaSFU to show this or not. We're also not going to rely on that. You're also just going to check if actually we don't have an empty video and then change that. So I'm going to change this to a logic that is dependent on whether we have an empty video or not. Now, for a custom for for the width and height, and for the fact that we also don't want to rely on that, I've just typed in some values for now. Probably I can make a height width of maybe something higher 600, and then a height of 400. Okay. So one absolute key thing we also we need to do is to wrap this in a box, size box, to make sure we don't it's contained as we need. So I'm gonna put this in the size box, and then I have the child as this. eventually I'm just gonna uh, s- I'm gonna leave it button, and then we'll save this to documentation purpose. Okay. So I can just check another space in between these two. And effectively I'm just wrapping this in a box so that it doesn't have an overflow. And in the audio grid as well, audio grid practically shouldn't be showing anything. So I'll just put another size box around this of a 0, 0, um, of a 0, 0 width and height. So this, and then this is going to be the child. And then we're just going to have so if I just save this, and then this goes, okay. Now, the very last thing we need to do is actually have the imports of these two from MediaSFU. So let's go up and then I will import so do you create and then flexible grid options. Okay. So with addition of this, you should be able to receive media from the other side. So let's just check that out. Just reload this. And in our browser, switch to the application. Okay, I'm gonna create a space and I'm gonna name the space test web reception. So in test media reception, I'm gonna name this as a description and create a space. By default, you will see this view coming through from the video from MediaSFU end. Um, I turn on my mic, this my camera. If you're doing, we are gonna have our view in here. So let's also check from the other side. So from the other side, I'll copy the meeting details as in the ID. And I'm gonna have this as confirmed, and then I'll use an first name when I join. I can see the user. I need to also turn on my camera, and I should be able to see the other participant. Now everything should be in sync. I leave this space. Should hopefully have an update here. So effectively we have shown that we can receive and send media from our end. Now let's proceed with both a bit of a cleanup in our application. So technically, we're gonna move our logic to the back uh, to another move our logic of click video, click audio, and everything that will kind of require from MediaSet in terms of media transmission to file we are gonna name as use MediaSFP underscore SDK in the services folder. Then we clean up our UI to focus on our usage of uh, that file in our main application. So I just transition to our space details. And then we're gonna create a file by name. Sorry, we're gonna create a folder by name services in our library. So I'll create a services. It doesn't really matter where you put it. And then I'll name a file. I'll get a file by the name use MediaSFU SDK dot underscore that, and then it's just going to house all my application logic of clicking, turning on, off, audio, and the like. So in here, we are going to need everything we had in the space detail. So for MediaSFU SDK, and everything central to our spaces is okay. How do I kick out a participant? How do I remotely control the medias and mute? So yeah, mute them. You can't unmute some. You cannot mute someone. How do I mute the user? How do I kick out the person? How do I actually end the room when I end my space here? Because technically, when I close the space here, I just leave. It doesn't really end there's a few space, and then our so usual click audio, our mic clicking um, control. How do we implement it here? But we've already seen that on the other side. So briefly, we're gonna get every function, the corresponding names existing MediaSFU. You just have to probably look up the documentation on getting whatever matching name it's supposed to be. So I know my toggle of mic is click audio, video is click video, or what about remove a person, remove member, or what's that equivalent? So we're gonna see some of that briefly just now. So the very first thing I'm gonna look at is it disconnecting the user from the 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 media SFU sorry, disconnecting yourself from the media SFU room, whether you're the host or so in here, I will create a function, let's by the name, function by the name disconnect room. And by default, we're gonna do one thing. We're gonna make sure we are not having a now a, a blank media SFU parameters, and then we're also gonna check whether there is a blank name. If we have a blank name, obviously we are not connected to the room. So far as our room name is not blank, um, whereas our name is it's not blank, we are gonna confirm leaving the room. And media SFU's option to leave a room is what we call confirm exit, and then confirm exit option. So if I click confirm exit options, it asks for socket, local socket, member room name, and then whether we are banning or not. By default, because we could have two instances of or connection to local community edition and then cloud, you have this appearing. Almost everything we require from here, we're just gonna get that from uh, almost everything we require from here. We're just gonna just pick it up from our source parameters. So you don't really have to worry about anything. But the member, the details is gonna come straight from source parameter. So I'm just going to fill this with the sockets, local socket, room name and ban, which is going to be false for us because we are not actually banning ourselves or whatever it's getting out. Now, once you have this, we are going to call our which confirm exit options, and we are going to pass confirm exit and pass concept the options to it. Now, Okay, so we have an error. Let's do that like that, and then that complete our disconnect um, our disconnection from the room function. Basically, that's what triggers when you try to exit room. It comes up confirm exit or not. Um, so that's one function, and then another function will be our toggling of our mic. So let's take a look at that. So essentially, we're gonna have practically the same thing. We also make a check for our media parameters um, to make sure we are not dealing with blank source parameters. Then same way, we're gonna make a check for the room name, making sure we are actually in an actual room. So and same way we made a check, if we click on the options, it's just parameters which is required. So, and as you have seen in the specific details already, so I'm gonna pass parameters. This is going to be the source parameter. So then we are gonna finally call our method, which is click on the options, and then you can close this, and then the back print whichever error we have, and then we should have an proper indentation. So this is our click our toggle audio function. With our next function, so in a similar way, we can do our toggle video. I think it's toggle completely. So essentially, mm, just clicking the video as we've seen it. But then I'm gonna get rid of this. I'll delete that. So uh, the next option I'll be looking at is you can use NVIDIA, which is also another specialty of passing a bunch of custom parameters. So I'm a user media. I need to get that to restrict some restricting the audio, video, screen share, or other possible options you could have with media and SFU. So also similarly to make a check of whether you are the you are in the room, we've got to check whether it's source parameters null or not. And if it's not, null is you're not true on the exception. And then um, to restrict use of media, MediaSFU normally requires you to be a host. You can just restrict media without being a host. And normally a host is someone with like this level of two. So you can make a check of that and a very quick way to get access to you might not have a very updated or up to date MediaSFU source parameters. There is a function called get updated source parameters. It basically returns the updated source parameters. So in case you find yourself yes, if the parameters and then you expect at this point in time there should be its level of two as a host, and it's called get updated source parameters. Most of the times the state of things should be right about the same. So you don't need but then in summary, a much more recent states is probably an updated parameter, but in this is source parameters as it is. So and here I'm going to make a check of whether you're the host. In summary, I'm going to check your its level in the parameters to make sure um, you are the host. And even for them, I also make a check whether you actually do have a room name. So the room name cannot be blank. So let's check is the room name blank or not. And then from there, I'm going to make updated state check. Assuming this in original sense fails, right? Let's check those parameters. My intuition is going to use the parameters. And if you are the host, we will need to find a signal that we are removing. So if surely you are host, if you're a host, very first thing we find is the balance of your street media, media SFU. So media SFU is what we call control media. So instead of your balance of your street media, it's control media. So I will need control media options. Almost everything need the options. So find options with control media options. Now let's check control media options. So you can have stuff like the participant ID. Then only these tools really the type. So this three like stuff you probably have to provide uniquely. Everything else is just going to come out right from the source, the parameters you are having. So everything is what I need to do. The name and the ID of the participant I'm kicking out. So you're going to find this from um, our first we are removing and then checking our participants in the and by default, we are sensing our ID due to MediaSFU's name requirements. We are sensing our ID using the alphanumeric of some specific character length of more than 10 to 10. We are sensing that with the name of MediaSFU. So our ID locally is the name of MediaSFU. So let's check um, the person you are moving here, which is from our front end, the ID, which is supposed to be the name of MediaSFU. So get off final participant as for parameters, the participant where the name is our serial then just as a guide here what you're passing is actually an ID of the participant is stick. Now once we're able to find the participant, you can still throw an error if it is not you have that, so you can just make a check of its integrity or if it's does it if not if it is you can just throw an error or briefly to proceed with um, if, if, if it's 90, define the participant. I will just complete the source, the control, the parameters which to have. So we're going to be defining the participant details. Like I mentioned, you don't really need this, so it should put in this to be the source parameter you're referring to most of the times. So, and then finally, I'll call my video. So, I should find chain and I will do that print and then I do save now. I should have proper definition. So, in summary, to retrieve the media, we need our source parameters, we need our member, and then just checks. So, we already have a room, we have going to refer to it, then the requirements by the MediaSFU almost all are satisfied by um, and satisfied by the source parameters. You just need to find what is matter of this should cover an ideas we did here. And default, the MediaSFU name is similar to our ideas for using for the challenge. So now we have our media, we have our disconnects in the room. The very last thing I'll add is to remember of companies what's about that thing. This is just this the is all of them is how to actually remove a remote from space. So um somebody has technically also need to pay whatever the money provide and then also make so checks the host and the host sort of thing. So um use what we see there and then um So as if you're the host, make a check of the participant to make sure it's a participant and the name is the currency. What we are going to do is to remove the user. So MediaSFU is equivalence of removing the user is remove participant. So instead of removing them now, just what's open paper, I'm gonna supposed to be remove participants options. Okay. So we quickly check the new participant options. It's for a bunch of stuff. The only unique thing here is who the participant is. Everything else we can just pick out from our our system. So we already found the participant here. So we just kind of just call our parameters and we just pass uh, everything as we need. And um, once more, we can put the parameters so you can just take the source uh, so, source parameters. It shouldn't be no better. So here I'm going to just paste because I need to complete that. And we can call our channel participants and then gonna pass in the option. So what to complete the rest, so catch and then print and then save this. I should have proper indication. Okay, so the replay. So remember we need the name, ID, the task which are gonna match with the name from the service participants array. And then whatever we need, we are gonna auto complete that order the participant that we get from here. And then we just call for the remove participants with the options that we create. So they should be able to respond for us. The same way we should be able to restrict media participant and interval like, and then also disconnect from our space. Okay. So we've managed to add our custom function now. We can go back to our uh, space details and get rid of our current hardcoded click video, click audio, because I can make use of how I import. So um, I need to import of services details stuff. Yeah. Really need our click video, click audio, and other stuff on it. So I'm just get rid of everything stuff. So SDK. How SFX. I'm using SFX SDK. Let's make use of that. So now let's look at our like from here. We are gonna get rid of this. Then we're gonna implement what have as our new thing. So yeah, this again. I'm gonna for this and passing our. Let me ask the parameters. Valid. Sorry. Then now we need to complete a couple of things. We this space as well. Space. Let's call space method. We know we actually so disconnected. Ah, let's call that space that we know we actually disconnecting from our MediaSFU space and this our local space system. So here I'm gonna have same space. Now when you select these participants, which you have locally, share, here too, you're just going to actually call the MediaSFU server to um, eliminate a participant as well. So initially, we're going to use our restrict media um, um, uh, a bit stream a bit. And then this process, I think we probably want to put as audio, like check the whatever media that you're using, and then whether it's all to you're gonna be able to do that. So with my user, yeah, here, and when we remove a participant, you actually participant from the room. So I so we have a method that says handle. So in here, we're just going to remove the participant. We're also gonna the option from the guys to what method to do that. So we currently have almost all our methods we've gotten from back then. Yeah. Another thing that is on an indicator of our mic activity. You're speaking, you're supposed to want to know to actually how this is sound and then at what level it is. So we'll create which I'll call a audio level visualizer. So you can just tell us what you're doing this high or this low frequency. So we're going to create a new value identifier which by the name um, audio level and it's around it. So I have audio level identifier. And then for this as well, we need to sync the same name. Yes, yes. So and for this, if you are making use of this, it's normally a value between 2.5 to and then um, the activity around 1 to 7.6 type of silence. We have something around 129, 130, sure somebody is speaking. And something about the 140 is like, obviously, let's say, source of sound somewhere. So that's a basic usage guide. There's a city or whatever you need. Something more simple stuff is like an absolute silence. Something more, 29 million more. There's a sound and then something 140 is in a we know there's surely actual sound. So let's pick what's the name? Our mic intensity is measure, as well as when we are not when we are muted, we don't change it. So it's just it's that for mic like whichever one puts us in here. So you're gonna have to state that to whatever media is, and then we're gonna change the audio level to whatever they're expected to have um for media asset. So let's go to where we update about parameters. So the parameters, and then we are gonna have two more nodes. One is going to be unlimited, and now our audio level. So now our audio level um is going to go straight margin from the SFU. It's going to be the other level. It's not now, and then it's same as our parent value, its ability to the parent one. I don't want to be our it's muted now, and it's muted. Media SFU's indicator is audio on, is audio already on, a video already on, and screen already on. Not true, then it's yeah, so processing. Yeah, muted is the negative is audio already on. So we don't need to check and then set. So um still it's muted state is the opposite of audio already. So we are not going to something when we don't need it. So um once you have these two, we're going to create initializer, basically a pass that show indicate how intense our audio sound is. So important. So we are going to play the call by then the pass the pass primarily really it's basically that picks the two different region and then that's idling the line two is 1 7.5 minutes of difference. So uh, this um very intense such by default it's connects in the data and then goes in the um horizontal direction. So let's look at what's imported in our space details. So we have our iPhone, we still have our something to show our feedback for that. And we have for import of our space details. So then let's put space details our UI probably our space somebody is also level. So adding the audio level indicator somewhere above this, and essentially going to pass in our value to our audio level bus widget. So once we've done that, um, we can now just test this out. Quickly. So it's here. Test it briefly. It's going to load. So while this is loading, I'm gonna open my browser. Let's just put a new space to say test audio density. Be the same thing have it as okay. Then I'll just hit create a space. And in here, once I turn on a mic, click turn on mic, click on my mic again. And once I turn on my mic, I should have the option to turn it off because it's picked up the state. And at the same time, I should have this kind of intensity bars coming through once in a while. So essentially, we can say that that aspect that aspect works. And then let's try in the space and see whether we can see it and on the other side. So let me just minimize this and then I'm gonna go to my local host, my link, and then I will join the room with the same ID as this. So if I paste this and I use text name and join, so I have the host audio feed coming through. So now if I end the room from here, now it should end our space. Initially it wasn't doing that. So let's save This actually does that well. So if we hit end space from here, you can see it's actually ends the meeting room and the other side, which is the actual space. Okay, so um, now back to our UI and finalizing the logic and making sure everything works in the context of SpacesTek. I really don't want the scenario um, in which we are going to have the case of um, just just creating. We need to programmatically create or join the space if another person is joining the space now, as opposed to what you have currently. How does the person join in a join the already created room, or how do we create the room with the specific details, the duration or whatever it's specified, capacity and the like. So uh, we are gonna go back to our space details and then conditionally modify the showroom details, which is currently being passed to the MediaSFU handler to be dependent on the specific parameters of the space step. So um, let's just go to our update room details in our UI. So we are gonna have our conditional rendering of our room details. I'll create a function by the name. I'll create a function by the name updates room details, and essentially all this does for us is to conditionally create a join pair the scenario we are dealing with. So let's go somewhere up here and then go from somewhere before scrolling room. Um, Instead of auto showing showroom details, I'm gonna have a function called showroom details, and it will just pick up whatever we are supposed to have from our spaces spaces tech creation parameters. What we created with spaces tech is going to just pass that and then update that for us. So we're gonna call this update space details, and then um or what we are doing is conditionally rendering. If our action is join, where the action we are passing into updating of the room data, if it is join or create, we are going to set our showroom details, which by default we are having as it's going to go up. This that we have initially as a dummy data, we are going to get rid of this. Then in the updates, we are going to update this based on creator join. So if we are joining, we are going to join one with the ID of the user, which is going to be the name on our MediaSFU endpoint. Our meeting ID is going to be the space remote name, and then our source parameters and our the source parameters. Now, if we are creating, we need our action to be create. If there's a duration, our duration is going to be the space duration. If it's defined, it's in seconds. We need to convert it. It's in milliseconds. We need to convert that from milliseconds to um, minutes, which is expected by MediaSFU. If there's a capacity, we read that over default to 5, and then we pass in our name as the ID of the user in the room, and then the source parameters, and then there are our update source parameters. So essentially, we're transitioning from our dummy showroom details to uh, basing this on whatever the space was created. And if I quickly just check on the API, you realize that when you are creating when we are creating a room, we use an indicator of our remote. We use our remote name to indicate a dummy name of our MediaSFU room. So essentially, it's remote underscore. So far as we have remote underscore in our remote name, we do know we never created the remote media SFU. So as long as this exists in our remote name, we are yet to create the remote media SFU. Once we create the remote media SFU, we can eventually update the remote name using the update space logic in our API. So let's go back to our space details. And now in here, we need to create a function to conditionally render join or create depending on the scenario. So if the user starts the event, they are the host, and then they create the event. Uh, if another user joins later, hopefully by then the room is created. If not, we need to create that, and then they just join the room. So we are going to create a function by name join room create room. And essentially, it's not going to do anything much other than calling um, the above update parameters to populate what it needs to be. So it is going to call join, and then we're going to do 124 create room. So it's just going to call create room. Okay. Now because you could have an issue of race as an competing um, competing actions at the same time, we would want to make sure there is no like duplicates in the room creation or a duplication in the joining of room. So we're gonna use a parameter which we will just call spending, and then also because we are making sure we have showroom details before we are going to show the MediaSFU handler who will create a new parameter which we are going to call showroom. Basically, we are only going to show the if we make sure showroom details is updated and then it's in blank. And also, we are not already waiting for pending request to kind of end. So um, let's just create two parameters, which is going to be showroom details and then so you're gonna have showroom and then spending. One just making sure we are sticking to uh, within the request, and then we're gonna create another one which is showroom, which is basically our check to finally show there. Okay, so somewhere around here um, on early level, I can create a parameter called showroom, and like I mentioned, we are gonna be dependent on that to show our room or not. So showroom. And now I'm going to create another parameter by the name is spending. It's a request spending or not. So in here, we'll put in the value of password by default. So we'll go back to our logic to create a join home. Then um, so now we make a check. If we are pending, we are going to return. Just make sure we are not pending. So if um, it's pending, if it's pending that value, it is going to return. If it's not pending, we are going to set spending uh, value to be true. Now, uh, we we once we update this, we are going to set our state to set showroom to true, so that we show showroom in the UI. Then um, you can then check its spending to false, or you can still do that when you have your room name updated. So same thing here. I'm just gonna copy everything from here. Let's just change into create. So here is gonna be the same. This is going to be create. Okay. So in summary, we make a check of whether we are creating a join in a room, and then we conditionally do so. Now we go to our room handler and make it dependent on this. So our MediaSFU handler. So So in MediaSFU handler now, let's just make it dependent on these two on the showroom. So MediaSFU handler, I'm going to have this dependent on showroom. So yes, essentially, if showroom is true, it's going to return the showroom, the MediaSFU generic. If not, it's going to just return a size box, an empty box. So once we have that, now you've gotten rid of our dummy showroom details. We are conditionally populating, and then we are also showing the room based on what we have. Now. Um, let's go for our task check, as in when do we actually uh, create or join a room, as in make a logic to create or join a room accordingly. Okay, so let's have a function that checks and then creates or joins our room for us, as in calls the create or join action accordingly. So in here, I'm gonna have a function which checks are we already connected or not. It's connected or not, and then update the call the show details and update that, and then calls the join. So and all creates accordingly. So in summary, um, we're gonna have the function called handle join create room, and we just check if we are still having a valid maintenance, and we can we are not past the scheduled time, and then the duration is not passed. And once everything is checked, the critical thing is if we can still check the join the room, and then you're not currently showing the room, we do what we call check for if there's no room. Now, by default, we create a room for the very first time. We use a dummy name. It starts with remote underscore to indicate there's just a dummy name. There's no room. So if there is no room, which it says has no room, and you are the host, we are gonna call create room. And if that's not the case, and actually we actually have a room, so opposite of us room is the room exists, then we are gonna join the room if we haven't already joined the room. So this logic practically checks one, are we connected? If we're not connected, depending on who we are or the situation of whether we actually created a room or not, we are going to actually uh, create a room. So create a room or join a room. So now let's take a look at our logic of when we join the space first, how we are gonna call our handle join or create handle join or create room effectively. So let's look at somewhere in when we are fetching space details. So around here, if at any point in time I'm not connected, I'm gonna make that check of whether I should I should join or quit. So in here, I'll make a check of whether I'm connected or not. So um, let's save this. And if I'm not connected, I'll call this, which programmatically handles the use case of creating or joining the space. Also, we had a physical button, which is connection to the room in case we come in unconnected. So I notes function the button which checks our connect audio button. Let's look for connect. So in our connect audio button, we currently have what we call not yet implemented, which manually triggers the same logic. You're supposed to trigger the same logic if for some reason you don't want to auto connect to the room. So here by default it says this, but we are gonna just probably change this to a function that will also make a check for us and see, okay, can we join the room or not, and then quit room. So for now, I'm just going to change this to uh, check, so check join room. And essentially, first we need to make sure we are not already showing the room before we put check join. Now, for check join room, this is practically also going to do the same thing, almost the same thing as handle create or join room. So check the remote name and then there's room or there's no room. You're gonna do that. So I'm going to create check join room. Let's put it somewhere around here. Wait for it. Okay. So practically, if we have the space in the current user and then we aren't showing the room, um, and also we have the room having the remote underscore as the remote name, which basically is not created. Uh, we are that's in the opposite case, which means we can join the room, but it's not having a remote underscore as the name. Then other than that, if you are the host, we are gonna create the room. So that's practically the replacement for the manual connect audio bias implemented there. Now, one last thing we need to do obviously is that because we are reliant on update of remote underscore, because to keep trying to create a room until we update that parameter. So we need to say, okay, once we have created the room successfully, we need to change the updates to update the space. So in our update space parameters, update space parameters, in here, we're gonna do the same. We're gonna do a job of one um, uh, checking if we haven't already updated the space name, and if we haven't, then we are gonna update that to the space name. So somewhere around here, I'll make a check if we have no room, and basically the key part is whether there's remote underscore, and then if we do that, and it's a check that really we do not have we do not have a room. I'm gonna call the API service instance to call update space, and then the only thing I'm updating in this part is the remote name, which is going to be our current room name. And effectively, we're gonna have that updated so that we don't keep checking for that. Now, I'm gonna move this into this project. So, and if we do that, I'll just do debug points. I'm not gonna be doing the messaging again. I'll just do a debug points for the very first time that we update the room name. So that's all no room. I'm gonna put a closing bracket and then do debug points. So essentially, we make sure whenever we have a new name, we update the space, and then others can join accordingly because we have a new name, and they can use that name to join the space. Now, what if it's the case of somebody joining, which means the room already exists? So in the case that the room already exists, which is going to be the else case, or has no room, we're gonna do we are just going to set the connected to true. If the room is actually not empty, the params and then it's none, and if join, you're gonna have connections that's just set to true. So effectively, we have the logic to almost update everything our SpacesTek just based on the details we have and make it work for both host and then the other. So let's just reload our UI. Now in here, in our browser, I'm gonna create a new space and then I'm gonna name this as test test cleaned y, and then I'll paste this as the description, and then it creates the space. So in here, you're gonna realize that this is created. Um, this is created for us. Now we are gonna try to join this on the other side and also on in another browser because of, like I mentioned, because of the local storage issues. We can't run the same um, two tabs of the same application in our browser. For instance, this is the Edge. So I'm gonna open up my Chrome, and then I also join this space with the same join the same space. So um, I go to localhost, it's 5,000. Okay, so I'm gonna use the profile of Charlie, and I'm gonna filter for a live space, and current one is okay. I think these are not being finally closed at time. So for text clean UI logic, I'm gonna go here, and in here I should have myself, and then the host Alice. From the side of the host, you can also see Charlie, and then the host Alice. Okay, so now if we let's do our media test. So if I turn on my media here, and then at the side of Alice as well, if I also turn on my media here, I actually want to allow this. I should have an indication of um, media being transmitted, and then when I check the side of the host as well, I'm going to see the default view from MediaSFU UI. Okay, so essentially we can join and create a space effectively as we desire. This based on the logic we have. Now, one key thing we would want to pay attention to is that by default, if Charlie's media is on, there is a support for us to. So now if I double click on Charlie, there's a support to remove the Charlie. If I click on this, I'm going to delete Charlie from the room. But then there should be a mic indicator, which the host should be able to turn off the Charlie's mic media, because Charlie is speaking, and then the by default this media service user say display, which is by the ID. So Charlie is speaking, and then there's no control. So essentially, we are not updating the local space. The rendering here is dependent on the local. So we are not updating the local space to match up with Charlie's change in audio status. So let's we can just fix that. We can just fix that for now. Let's go back to our API. And also, when I remove Charlie, if I remove Charlie, uh, Charlie is removed, but then Charlie is still in the UI. If you were to check on MediaSFU's endpoint, if I go to in fact, you're gonna see in here that Charlie is no more being displayed as one of the elements in here, but then Charlie is still in the UI. So when we remove a user, we still need to update two things in SpacesTek internally. One is the ban participant in SpacesTek, which basically removes the user from SpacesTek's UI. In addition to actual removal from the MediaSFU's room. And then also when Charlie's mic is on, we need to do that indicator. So let's switch to our application. So in our application now, our space details, we are gonna do two things. One is to update the state for the um, mic state. to match that of MediaSFU so that the SpacesTek knows that the user is not muted or it's muted at any point in time. The second one will be to do the ban participant and SpacesTek. So the very first one, somewhere in our update this parameters, if we update the mute states, we can just do the so somewhere in here where we have the update of mute status, we're gonna just do one thing. So I need to get the user and then update the API. So find the participants, then change the state to muted state. So when new participants is just going to be what you have currently, and then we are going to copy the current user, and then we are going to update the whatever muted state it is to match the state that we currently change from MediaSFU update. So then we call and update the space as you have seen in our API. So we are going to call our API to update the participants, and then we are going to have a updating the participant. And then once more, this is dynamic implementation. You would want to a much more refined way of having call and fetch the space and the like. So too often. So now the very last one is the banning of the participant. So when we do our function handle remove participants in here, we can call our API to also ban the participant. So somewhere here, I'm gonna call MediaSFU's ban participants function to specifically remove these participants from the interface. So let's proceed with restarting the application again. And then to test this out, you're gonna do the same thing, join on our Edge and then join on our Chrome to make sure this is working accordingly. So for the sake of running both the Chrome and the Edge, this rather stop and restart. So um, stop and restart and it's about together. I might have the Chrome version behind for the restart options. Run this on Edge again. Should have taken a couple of seconds to start. So this loads in the window. I'll probably restart the Chrome version. Close this up together and then start it again. Hopefully that's an update. And I'll do create space. So from here, I will take the Chrome version and then I'll let's go to this and join. And in here, I'm gonna make one check of something. So currently there is a space of the edge. We don't have the indicator for mic. I would unmute the host, unmute the space of room. I'm gonna unmute the Charlie, so I turn on mics of Charlie. I go to the space of yeah, I should uh, hopefully have an indicator and update of so this uh should have had um Charlie's mic coming through, but then I'm not gonna do it on that. Ideally Charlie's mic should come through. I probably don't have that's implemented currently, but then Charlie's mic should check the versions. Hosted Charlie's mic should come through now, and then the option to mute should work out for me. And I'm just gonna check the ban out. Place I have that icon. So okay, so Charlie is gone from here. If I do check the space, Charlie is removed. But still just showing the host view in the redirect to there. Okay. So we'll go back to we should have been directed. So we go back to our application and then it's to start. So I'll take a look at the case for Charlie being removed, being banned. If you have been banned, this logic should have to at least space. But it's a bootstrap parameters. Bootstrap parameters. We're gonna have it, and the message is not let message by default, and it's not empty. We'll set our current message to that. We set our our message that so we're gonna just do a message that value support to that, and then uh, what's it? Wait, what? Say something as standard. Look at, okay, are you the host or you are um the host or you are the what's the internet? Yeah, the host. It's, so you can check for whether you're the host or not. If you're the host, we end the space. If you're not the host, then leave this. You just leave the space. It's that one particular message is true. When you treat it for force, in the spiritual mode, you are still. It also so planning to read the right story and complete or the what we display, right? Whether it's to switch from portrait to landscape. So, I mean, that country, most of the accounts for the product are actually meeting you are to just show me something you can without altogether. So, if you make that check, certain message, it's not a message that I'm going to to it's it's not a message that is a rotates message. So uh, it's it's not it's not have it as such. Okay, so essentially we made some basic changes today. So um, check this for example. If we restart our application, if we check let's put a new space and then we're going to do test maybe it's a few let's you don't really have to display every minute of your alert. You can just or have a custom part of it or just listen to the very critical ones. Uh, you didn't necessarily. So if I create a space, I'm going to put my Chrome version and then also join the space. Join the space. And one thing I can do is to say turn on my mic, for example. If I go to my other part of the side of the host and I'm gonna turn off. But first, I don't get a mic coming through here to turn off. I'm gonna turn off. So, instead of the other participants, if try to turn me on again, you this is a notification. Since you like that, we didn't have this you haven't listened to the voice of a lot of messages. So that's probably something that's really been familiarized. So okay, so we continue to experience because you have to do yourself to customers. So you don't have use to make of you look at it. How do you again you learn if we can go from the voice to that you know until last time it's probably short so this occurrence of auto. So within the limits of receiving and sending audio media in your media SFU, your audio grid perfectly handles that for you. You don't really have to worry about whether you're getting every media or not. Um, One issue is that in a rare occurrence, there might be an autowave. So for autowave, um, there's a briefly go to MediaSFU.com, then components, and so there is the so there is a probability that this menu the player pops up. It's attached to the items in the your grid, your audio grid. That might come up in rare occurrence that mm, maybe you want uh, view display type pair your option. You don't want to see any person with only audio on, or you are on a generator stream. So think of a very large room, say like 3,000, 5,000 people, everybody's media on. Within the limits of your client, so your browser, you can't even play high quality 50 media streams concurrently in the browser. So if there is automated pagination, then media itself use approach and algorithm probably finds a way to say, okay, these are the most interesting streams. So at a point in time, if a user has both um, high sound and media video on, they are prioritized over somebody with just video on without mic on in terms of order of display. So if somebody has in maybe like a third tab, not usually present on your screen at the time and the person is talking, we still want to know who that person is. So you're gonna see this thing many of the playing around. So now we can check that. I can just show you how that works. So how I'm gonna join the Spaces Tech now, and then if I join the Spaces Tech, the page is gonna confirm. I'm going to send in test name, and then if I join in here, let me go back to okay, I don't think I can turn on the mic of this participant now. So I will log out with Charlie and come in as Bob inside of I join here. If I turn on my mic, um no, that's something that must be fixed for Charlie in your implementation. So uh the illustration is when I turn on my mic here, I would say that there is a view of Bob vis-a-vis question here. It's the audio indicator playing. Now, if I am to force my display, now the option to show only video participant is this, and then if I want to force that only, so that at a point in time the algorithm doesn't think I will need to see other people without video, I'm gonna check this. Now, if I hit save, you're gonna see that usability gets off the screen. I'm gonna have this draggable component in my UI. Now, the way I absolutely get rid of this, no matter the situation, so it never appears, is go to set the display again, and I'm gonna do this check button, display autographs. I'm gonna uncheck it. So when I save this once more and I leave here, I'm gonna have no display of anybody without video. So it's just no audio graphs and then um no basically no display in the UI until you turn on your video. So essentially that's the logic for for the audio graphs. Okay, so now that technically ends the whole logical media controls and display. And then to to force the same thing in our system, in the case that it might occur under rare circumstances, we want to completely isolate that case. So let's do that to in our UI. So to force display um, when we don't have force display like the way we did for this endpoint. Force display like the way we did for this endpoint, and then we completely get rid of it to make sure it never occurs. Let me just end this now. Then um, I'm gonna go to my room, and then let's force this space. Okay. So the first thing we need to force video display and then make it show only. That's optimized. I'm gonna put this. So the call to update this later to video is the same as we did in the other end. This is the equivalence to it, and then the show video optimized is true is going to have the same impact. Now, if go to the other side, I'm still gonna do the same thing here to illustrate this that. So um we start to take some time. Let me just reload one of these. So cut that out. Um okay, so then in our application again, let's just test force auto wave. And then here we're gonna have this as a description. And if I do create space, I will I will go here and I'm gonna join the same event. This demonstration. So I will name and when I join here, for example, it doesn't really matter where the source is coming from, but when I join here, for example, and I hit um, my mic button, um, because I did that first thing, I'm gonna have this draggable thing like I was saying. So you're gonna have this thing that you move around and then it's always gonna be there. And then order is very rare. We just want to make sure like the way we did that we turn off display autograph, you're gonna do the same thing. So let's head back out to application. Then in our application, the call to get or to completely get rid of this under every circumstance is to use update auto wave to off to false. So if I call this, it means I'm guaranteed that under no circumstance am I gonna have this that display happen. So I do this. I know for sure I get rid of my auto. Now finally we don't really need our uh, flexible grid again. Also of emphasis is on the audio, and then it's been saved for every participant in the room in our audio grid. So let me get rid of the flexible grid. So effectively, we have that running some audio for us on the all the participants in the room. We have added the logic to just send our audio to everyone and then receive audio from everyone in the room. as an illustration kind of restriction. You can't really hear the audio being played, but then I guarantee you that the audio from yourself is getting into others, and then the rest of the people in the event space, no matter the number, are kept in audio grid, which you have rendered in the system. And so far as you've turned on the update auto wave, you're never going to have the effect of that audio model coming through from the mini audio player from time to time. So that effectively ends the presentation for our SpacesTekFinal. As final comment, if you would like to use this, you make a cleanup of the app logic, maybe move the API to something much more sensible as opposed to the dummy implementation. And then if you care about more details like video switches, camera selection, and then particularly just using media streams as opposed to using widgets and the like. You can look forward to our demonstration of Media Spaces Advanced, SpacesTek Advanced, which practically just takes this as our starting point, and then we switch the focus to video and then transition to advanced usage. So that's all for now from here, and then I'll look forward to SpacesTek Advanced demonstration from MediaSFU. See you. Bye.